Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of Phenomenal Views. I am of course your host Nick Smith, and as you know, I have reviewed Resident Evil, and I will be reviewing the rest of the Resident Evil movies. I reviewed Retribution first, then the first one. I'm not reviewing Apocalypse until I play Resident Evil 2, which I'm almost done with, and then I have to play 3. Now, I will be doing a Resident Evil movie today, Resident Evil Afterlife. Now, this movie I actually enjoyed, but that was because I was stupid and I was suffering from something I'd like to call fanboy-itis. It's when you are in such a fan of something, when you see your favorite things on the screen, you don't know that it's being done wrong. So, Resident Evil Afterlife. Hold on one second. Paul Anderson, meet your DVD, meet baseball bat. I think I just broke that, but I don't care. So, Resident Evil Afterlife is the sequel to Resident Evil Extinction. Now, the main villain of this game, or of this movie, I'm sorry, is Albert Wesker. But they changed him from being the awesome Wesker to, well, I think, how was it Ken Titus said it? What does the W stand for, Ken?
Titus. The W, gentlemen, stands for what's it?
That about sums it up. Yeah, they changed Wesker from the awesome bad boss that he was in the first game, the 5th game, and whatever other games he's in. Albert Wesker, in the film starts off with Alice's clones, who one of them, Alice's clones are in Japan. Now, in Resident Evil Extinction, they said the whole entire world has turned into a barren wasteland. Why isn't Japan a barren wasteland? It's not. It's not a barren wasteland. There's buildings, and there's still people in Japan. Okay, so the film starts off with going up this hot Japan chick. Like literally, Japan chicks are hot. But, all of a sudden this guy's looking at her and he's like, huh, what is a wonderful Japanese lady doing just staring in mid-air? And then the Japanese woman's just staring at him like, and then she attacks him. My thought was she's thinking, how does my dress look? Why are you staring at me? Do you hate my dress? I'd kill you! So yeah, that's how the infection starts in Japan. Apparently, also along within Alaska, the virus hasn't reached there yet. So then all of a sudden we get this whole thing where they're doing Modern Warfare in real life with these two people in Japan sniping zombies, and they're doing a counterpoint thing. You know, it's like in Lord of the Rings Two Towers when Legolas and the midget elf guy, or the, not the elf guy, but the gremlin, whatever, the whatever people. The midget with the axe, like they're doing like, Legolas, how many elks do you have? 17! I will not lose to a pointy-eared elf! Yeah, they're basically doing something like that, just with, you know, they're doing Black Ops zombies in real life. Must be fun. So, then all of a sudden, each one of the members gets killed off one by one. This, of course, upsets Albert Wesker. And we see him for the first time. He's still wearing the business suit. And I didn't mind the guy that they picked for Albert Wesker, except he doesn't really act that much like the character. He goes back between the voice of Agent Smith from The Matrix and many different other voices. It's like a combination voice. He's intimidating-ish. He's like, why didn't you tell me what was going on? And they're all like, we didn't want to disturb you, sir. Bang. Now, Wesker doesn't mind killing an innocent. He really doesn't. I mean, heck, he probably slaughters puppies for fun. What do I know? He turned his, the girl who had a major crush on him into a gigantic black worm thingy. So that should tell you how much of a loving guy this is. Yeah. So, Alice's clones come running in, and something I noticed, one of Alice's clones has 2 long swords, which is fine. She goes in slicing in a lot of the guys. But now here's one thing. She takes the sword, and the sword is about this long, right? She throws it at a soldier's head. The soldier is wearing armor. The blade goes all the way in the head, but there's nothing coming out of the back end. It was the same sword. Paul Anderson. Conspiracy, as Filmmaster Adam would say. What's that? Thank you for that quote, by the way. So Wesker basically tries to escape. He finds Alice, the real Alice. He injects a cure into her, which also manages. If Wesker had a cure to kill the T-virus cells in her body, why didn't he just use the cure? Oh yeah, he's a money-grubbing person. So he basically tells about how the Umbrella Corporation is taking back its property. I'm what you used to be, only better. He shows off a little bit of his powers. They crash into a mountain because he had it set on autopilot, and apparently he didn't tell the instructions to say watch out for mountains. So, and somehow Alice survives the plane crash, which I don't see how, considering the fact she took away her powers, or he took away her powers, and she does not have accelerated healing. Now, Wesker does, because he has been injected with the T-virus. But they don't reveal that until the end of the movie, so it really doesn't explain how Wesker can walk out of explosions without a scratch. Of course, though, when I watched the movie for the first time, this was all my reaction was, ah! Albert Wesker, villain of the games! Woohoo! Yeah. So, then basically after that, Alice is recording documentaries for who knows who's going to watch them. And she talks about how the last time she seen Claire was when or the last time she's seen anyone was when she said, Kmart, take care of the others, blah, 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 blah. She comes by Arcadia and it's a beach. Then all of a sudden she gets attacked by Claire, who has this spider thing on her neck. Now, Resident Evil Afterlife is a combination between Resident Evil 5 and Resident Evil 4. The only thing that is about Resident Evil 4 is Las Plagas. Resident Evil 5, you have the spider thing. You have Albert Wesker. You have Chris Redfield. Of course, he should have been in the first movie because he was in the first game. We have the Executioner. We have, well, the dogs are infected with Las Plagas. This movie's basically just a movie version of Resident Evil 5 and Resident Evil 4 cut together, which they do horribly, by the way. So she finds Claire, and she basically knocks Claire out and takes the spider thing off of her neck. Now, in Resident Evil 5, Jill had the spider thing on her chest, but here's one thing. I made a little recording, and I want you all to listen. I really do. This is just something that I came up with at a short time. You ready? Here we go.
The spider device in Resident Evil 5, when taken off, does not cause one to have memory loss. The spider device makes people work for Albert Wesker.
Yes, when Alice takes the spider device off of Claire, Claire can't remember a thing. In Resident Evil 5, when they took the spider device off of Jill, she automatically knew who she was. She was just being controlled. That's what those things do. Paul Anderson, have you once again played the games? I would hope that you've played Resident Evil 5 because you have some of the characters from Resident Evil 5. So then they fly to LA or whatever. Oh, and something else I want to show you all. I took pictures. Now, when they said that the world looks like a barren wasteland, basically... Oh, man, I didn't take the picture. Maybe I did. No, okay. I didn't save the picture. But in Resident Evil Extinction, everything's a desert wasteland. In Resident Evil Afterlife... I don't know if you all can see that, but that's what the city looks like. That doesn't look like a desert wasteland. It looks like just a city that just got nuked. So they fly and they crash onto this building that has survivors. It has this basketball player named Luther. It has this girl named Crystal. It has this guy who I swear is another person from Resident Evil 5, but his name isn't who he is. We'll get to that later. So then they basically discuss the plane. They discuss that Arcadia is actually a ship. It is a ship that is near this town, or near the city, near LA, or wherever Hollywood is. Whatever. But it's near there, and so they discover that there's a recording. This is the Arcadia broadcasting on the emergency frequency. We have food, shelter, no infection. Now that's good. That's a good thing to add into the story. You know, them finally finding a place where there's no infection. That is fine. I congratulate you, Paul Anderson. I congratulate you. Good job. So then we meet these other people. We meet this guy named Wendell, I guess, or Will, I don't know. But they find where they have met Chris Redfield. Chris Redfield has been in a prison this whole entire series. Now, see, here's the thing. Chris didn't work in a prison. He worked for the Raccoon City Police Department. Play Resident Evil 2 or Resident Evil 1. They mentioned a lot of things about him. He's a member of STARS. He works for the Raccoon City Police Department. So then basically Luther's like, I don't want to let him out. I think he's a killer. And Chris says, when everything went out, prisoners got out, they put me in the prison, and they thought it was funny. And you know what's hilarious? This actor who's played him doesn't act anything like Chris. He acts creepy when he's around Claire. And as you know, Chris and Claire Redfield are brother and sister. But when Chris comes around, he's creepy. He's like, Claire? It's Chris. She grabs his arm, and he acts so creepy. When they escape, he's like, my dog is barking. You can hear that. Hold on a minute. Sorry about that. So, Chris just acts really creepy. And it's not anything like his character at all. So then, when we meet Chris, you know, they don't let him out until later. We learn that Alice takes quarters and puts them in shotgun shells. Now, I like this effect. Of course, though, I wasn't smart and I wasn't using my brain. But you can't shoot quarters out of a shotgun. I don't think that's really how it works. Because, like, when all the zombies get out and stuff, she takes 2 shotguns and shoots them, and quarters go everywhere. I don't think quarters would make good ammunition. But, oh, and here's something. We find out that there has been a way for them to leave this entire time, but they just never checked because, I don't know, because the plot says so, I guess. So then we see, in this film, we see the executioner from Resident Evil 5. Now, there is no story behind this character. He's just there. But there's a reason he doesn't work in this film. It shows him walking to the place where everyone is. How would he know? How I imagine it went something like this. Yeah, we need you to come here because Project Alice is here and we need help to get into this building. We think there's food. Come down here with your giant axe. Guys, my brother will be here in like a couple years because he's a slow, big guy. He's got a big axe. So yeah, another villain from the games, which is not explained at all. And the difference is with this is worse than Nemesis and the Licker. Because the reason why it worked so well in Resident Evil 5 is because he was part of a tribe in the games. Now, something that Paul Anderson tried to put in this movie was the virus from Resident Evil 5 called Las Plagas. Las Plagas does turn people into zombies, but it's more like mind control. They're given strength and everything like that, and the only way you can kill them is by a shot to the head. But for some reason, Paul Anderson decided not to add that. He just decided, boom, here's something that the fans will recognize. See, and here's something else I'm also going to show you. Paul Anderson made his zombies. This is what Las Plagas looks like in the movie. This is what it looks like in the games. Las Plagas does turn people into zombies, but it's more like mind control. And it does rot their skin, but they're not brainless. They are actually smart, considering the fact a zombie can pick up an axe and chop people up. In Resident Evil 4 and 5, even the people infected with Las Plagas can talk and think. Paul Anderson, why didn't you do what they were doing? Think! So, oh, and by the way, Paul Anderson tries to make the zombies mate with Las Plagas act like them, except the thing is, zombies don't swim, and he has them swim. Now, if it was the zombies from Resident Evil 4 that were infected with Las Plagas, that would work. But sadly, it doesn't. So then we get the executioner who, when Alice is taking a shower, or no, when they decide that they can't put the motor into this truck, they find out where the zombies have been coming from, because there's that guy Wendell gets taken by one, I guess. Yeah, that's what happens. And so then they decide, okay, we're going to go down this pipe, and we're going to go get to a room that has all this ammo. Actually, they already do that. But anyway, so all of a sudden, the gigantic executioner sneaks into a bathroom. How can no one hear him? He's a big, gigantic guy with an axe. I think you would hear him. I mean, it's like if you have a room covered in bubble wrap and you step on it. It doesn't matter if you step on it quietly. People are still gonna hear you. So, I mean, people are still gonna hear you. It doesn't matter if you sneak up as quiet as possible. Ding, 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 ding. Now, if he wasn't carrying a humongous weapon like this axe, I mean, my gosh. This thing, it goes all the way from my floor all the way to the ceiling or a little bit longer. That's how long this axe is. So that you would have heard him. So he chops this guy in half who no one even remembers. And we get the slow motion between Claire and the executioner. And there's a lot of slow motion. He cuts the pipes in the bathroom and it makes it rain and it looks nice. It looks nice. Yeah, Claire's hot. So she slides under him, she takes a shotgun, shoots him in the shoots him in the nuts with quarters. Boy, talk about having more extra lead pump come through your veins. Huh. And then he throws the axe at her, she moves, and Alice takes the other gun and shoots him, blows his freaking head off, which I still don't see how quarters can blow a guy's freaking head off. So then they decide, or before that, they let Chris out, and then they find the room with ammunition, and they basically escape. But Luther turns on them, or Bennett turns on them, a guy named Bennett in the movie who was like a former producer in the world, whatever, he's got a stick up his butt. He flies to Arcadia and he steals the plane. So then they get through all this. Chris makes it, Claire makes it, and Alice makes it. Luther, when they're sneaking through the floor, he gets taken. And so then they finally get to Arcadia and they realize no one is on the ship, but the computer says that someone is on the ship. So then they walk through and they discover, hey, maybe they're underneath our feet. So then they go to Alice goes to another room with a bunch of jets, and then Alice finds Albert Wesker, and she's like, why am I not surprised? And then when she's talking to him, we see Bennett come up behind her, and it turns out Bennett is working for Wesker. Now, I called this in the film. I wouldn't be surprised if he was working for Wesker. And you know what? That's why this guy in the film, I am sure, was supposed to play Irving from Resident Evil 5. Because he worked for Wesker. Yeah. And he also gets killed, so. But they find the girl Kmart from the first film, or from the third film, and so Alice is basically talking to Wesker, and Wesker is basically like, the T-virus brought me back, but it's so strong, it fights me for control. Yeah, okay, Paul Anderson, here's another thing. Wesker already had the T-virus, but he has full control over it. He doesn't have to absorb people to counter out its effects. So basically he says to Alice, now that you're here, I have a new plan. I'm going to absorb you, I'll gain control. And Alice basically does like this whole thing, I'm not part of the meal or whatever. Then we get a fight between Alice and the dogs from Resident Evil 5. And then somehow Chris and Claire Redfield sneak behind Wesker, and Wesker is like, well, isn't this one big family reunion? Chris and Claire Redfield. Okay, he knows them. How does he know them? They don't explain anything. They don't explain how Wesker knows Chris, how Wesker knows Claire. There's a reason he knows them in the first game. Wesker, Barry, Jill, not Rebecca. Other people that are in the first game, he knew them because he was part of the STARS unit. That is where he knows them from. And Wesker is never pursuing Chris. It's the other way around. Chris wants Wesker to die. And we're getting ready to cut off from part 1, so we're going to continue in part 2 in 3, 2, 1...